You wake up, you brush your teeth, you drink your morning coffee, you check your smartphone, and you drive your car to work. What if I told you that one single secretive company owns a massive piece of the company that made your toothpaste, the brand of your coffee, the tech in your phone, and the manufacturer of your car? You probably think it's a giant tech monopoly, or maybe a secret government entity. But it's not. It's a company you rarely hear about on the news. Meet BlackRock, alongside its massive rival, Vanguard. Together, they are the undisputed kings of Wall Street. But kings doesn't really capture it. They are the entire kingdom. Let's look at the numbers. BlackRock alone manages over $10 trillion. 10 trillion. That is a number so big, the human brain literally struggles to comprehend it. If you earned $1 million every single day since the day Jesus was born, you still wouldn't even have $1 trillion. BlackRock has 10 times that. Vanguard is right behind them with about 8 trillion. Combined, they control more wealth than the GDP of almost every country on Earth, except for the US and China. So, how did they get so big? To understand this, we have to travel back in time, to the 1970s. Back then, investing was a rich man's game. You hired a guy in a fancy suit, a mutual fund manager, and paid him a hefty fee to pick the best stocks. The goal was to beat the market. But there was a massive problem. Most of these fancy suit guys actually lost to the market over the long run. Enter a man named John Bogle. Bogle realised something profound. Trying to find the winning stock was like looking for a needle in a haystack. His solution? Don't look for the needle, just buy the entire haystack. This idea birthed the index fund. Instead of paying a guy to guess, an index fund simply buys a tiny piece of every single company in the stock market, automatically, without human emotion, and, most importantly, with incredibly low fees. Wall Street laughed at him. They called it Bogle's folly. They said settling for average market returns was un-American. But Bogle had the last laugh, because over the next few decades, the index fund absolutely destroyed active managers. It turns out, average is actually exceptional. Fast forward to the 2008 financial crisis. The stock market crashes. Millions of people lose their life savings. Trust in those expensive Wall Street managers drops to zero. Investors are terrified. They want cheap, safe and transparent. They want index funds. A massive tidal wave of money starts leaving active mutual funds and floods straight into passive index funds. And who was perfectly positioned to catch this tsunami of cash? Vanguard, and a rapidly growing powerhouse named BlackRock. BlackRock had just acquired a brand called iShares. It was a masterstroke, as the stock market went on a massive historic bull run over the 2010s. Every time you, me, or your grandma put money into a 401k, it was likely flowing straight into their vaults, a few dollars at a time, multiplied by hundreds of millions of workers every single paycheck. This created a snowball effect of epic proportions. By simply buying the entire market, these firms became the largest shareholders in almost every major publicly traded company. Apple, they are top shareholders. Microsoft, top shareholders. Amazon, Exxon, Johnson & Johnson. Yes, yes, and yes. Which brings us to a very uncomfortable question. Does this mean they own the world? Well, legally, no. See, the $10 trillion BlackRock manages isn't actually their money. It's yours. It belongs to firefighters, teachers, pension funds, and ordinary investors. BlackRock is just the custodian. They are driving the buzz, but they don't own the buzz. But here is the massive plot twist. When you buy a share of a company, you get a vote in how that company is run. You can vote for the board of directors. You can vote on executive pay. You can vote on corporate policies. But when you buy an index fund through BlackRock, you don't vote. They vote for you. This is called proxy voting, and it gives these asset managers unbelievable leverage. Imagine a corporate boardroom The CEO wants to give himself a massive bonus. If BlackRock and Vanguard say no, the answer is no. They hold 50 to 20% of the voting power in many massive corporations. In the corporate world, 20% is effectively a controlling stake, because most individual shareholders never bother to vote. This means the CEOs of the biggest companies on Earth are terrified of upsetting the big three. Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, writes an annual letter to corporate CEOs. It is treated like holy scripture on Wall Street. If he says companies need to focus on climate change, boards scramble to reduce their carbon footprints overnight. But this power concentration creates a weird paradox, the illusion of choice. Let's say you go to the supermarket. You want to buy a soda. You choose Coke over Pepsi because you prefer the taste. You think you are rewarding one company and punishing the other. But look at the top institutional shareholders for Coca-Cola, Vanguard and BlackRock. Now look at the top shareholders for Pepsi, Vanguard and BlackRock. You need to book a flight. United Airlines or Delta. It doesn't matter. The big three are the top shareholders for both. Checking your bank account, JP Morgan Chase or Bank of America. Same top shareholders. Economists call this common ownership, and some worry it secretly destroys competition. If you own all the airlines, do you really want them fighting a vicious price war, or would you rather they all just quietly keep ticket prices high? There's no smoking gun of illegal collusion, but the incentives are incredibly strange. The market is no longer a fierce battleground. It's more like a giant, quiet family dinner. And BlackRock is at the head of the table. Now, BlackRock fiercely denies they are doing anything wrong. They argue they are a force for good. They say they engage with companies to ensure long-term stability. And to be fair, they have a point. By driving down investing fees to near zero, they have saved everyday investors hundreds of billions of dollars. They democratized the stock market. Before index funds, Wall Street was legally robbing you with fees. Today, anyone with $10 and a smartphone can own the entire world economy. But every revolution has a cost. We traded high fees for extreme concentration of power. A handful of executives in New York and Pennsylvania now wield more economic influence than most sovereign governments. They don't build cars. They don't write software. They don't drill for oil. They just manage the spreadsheets. And yet, through the magic of proxy voting and index funds, they hold the keys to modern capitalism. So, the next time you brush your teeth, just remember who's really watching: the unseen landlords of your life.